Hi, it's Nashy on The Faction. This woman is one of the most baddest and most beautiful women on the planet. Joining me today via Zoom, it's Taylor Momsen from The Pretty Reckless to tell us everything we need to know about that new album, Death by Rock and Roll. Taylor, thank you for speaking to The Faction.
Thank you for having me. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well, but this conversation comes to you with a case of either laryngitis or pharyngitis or some kind of jitis. I know, and that's what I think you're the best person to speak to here because you've been taking your voice to some real precarious places, especially on Death by Rock and Roll. Do you have a special remedy?
No, I really don't. I'm sorry. I wish there was a magical cure. Like I don't even really warm up, honestly. Like I know that sounds stupid, but like to me, I sing from my heart. I don't know. Like to me, singing is like speaking. Like I tend to I'll lose my voice from talking way faster than I'll lose my voice from singing. So I just kind of like for me to warm up, I just kind of sing simpler songs before you start, climbing up the ladder there. So no, I don't really have any good tips. I mean, I drink tea and honey sometimes. I've vocal zones. Have you ever tried those? It's kind of like menthol-y things that kind of helps like open up my nose if I'm feeling stuffy or something. But no, I wish there was I feel like it's all mental. Like all my weird stuff comes mentally. Like on some tours, I feel like I have to have a Coca-Cola on stage because I feel like the sugar is going to help my throat, or like I'll suck on a Starburst, or like weird things like that. And then it actually doesn't do anything. It's all in your head. So it kind of changes as the tour progresses. I don't know.
Have you always sung with a hard edge before singing in bands?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I don't really analyze my voice like that. I really kind of just try to sing from an honest place. That my whole goal is just trying to kind of convey what I'm actually saying and what I'm feeling, and somehow make that sound good.
So you're not forcing yourself to sound the way The Pretty Reckless should sound. You're being true to your authentic voice, and I guess the band is building itself around that, perhaps.
Kind of, yeah. Actually, I mean, like the songs are all, the songs start with the song. So like the production and the way that the song is built and not even built, I don't like that word, but the way it develops afterwards, everything is written on acoustic guitar. So it starts there, and it starts with the song, and then how the production develops, and how heavy it should be, or how it should build here or transition here or whatever. That's already written into the song itself. If that makes sense. So it's not actually, it's not calculated like that. Yep. It's more just like feel it and hope it sounds good.
Before we talk about the new album, Death by Rock and Roll, did the world of hard rock find you, or did you find it? Something I've always wanted to know about you.
Both. Both, honestly. I mean, I was introduced to rock and roll at a very young age due to my father, who's a massive rock fan. I mean, like the first band I ever heard was the Beatles, and I fell in love. And to this day, my favorite band on the planet. And it's they're the reason that I started writing songs at a very young age. But I listened to my dad's vinyl collection, so it was the Beatles, and then it was Led Zeppelin and The Who and Pink Floyd and AC/DC and Neil Young and Bob Dylan and Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton and Cream, and I just keep listing The Doors, and I keep listing bands. And then when I got a little older, I kind of discovered the 90s scene.
Oh yeah, can't wait to jump into this.
Like, I heard, Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains, and then Soundgarden. And when I heard Soundgarden, it blew my mind up. It was like hearing the Beatles for the first time. It was that same kind of feeling where my head just went back and my mind exploded, and I went, what the fuck did I just listen to? There's hold on. Yep. And and I was obsessed. So for me, it's like the Beatles, Soundgarden, that like bookends my musical love right there.
Dave Grohl has been quoted saying that when he first heard Soundgarden, that really raised the bar for everyone. And it brings me to a question regarding Death by Rock and Roll. You've got a song on there with members of Soundgarden. You've also got a song on there with Tom Morello. Two-parter question here. Why were these artists chosen, or I guess selected, to appear on this new album?
well, I wouldn't say that they were chosen or selected. I think that, collaborations to me, they have to come about very organically. And I think, especially in today's kind of modern paradigm of music, collaborations can be very kind of overdone and seem very forced. And a lot of them can be, at least in my opinion, feel like a marketing tool more than an actual like artistic necessity. And so for me, it always starts with the song. Where you want me to start with, with And So It Went, the song that features Tom. I had written that song. I'd met Tom a few times, but
at the sound, it was a Chris Cornell tribute show, or it was a commemoration show or something. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I met him a few times before that, throughout the years. But that show we were both playing, there's the Chris Cornell "I'm the Highway" tribute show in Los Angeles. And we were both playing with Soundgarden on the song Loud Love at that show. And that's kind of where we rekindled a friendship, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it. And shortly after that, we were starting to record the album, and I had written the song And So It Went. And we were in the studio, and just kind of due to the lyrical content of the song itself and the overall like vibe and energy of it, I really felt like Tom would add, if he came in and played a solo, it would add this element that we couldn't provide ourselves. Like I thought it would really kind of take the song to its full potential. And so I sent him a demo of it, and I called him up and was like, "Hey man, would you take a listen to this and see if you'd want to play on this?" And he obviously said yes and did. Yep. And I was correct. Dare I say it, but because when we got his tracks back and we put the whole thing together, and he just comes in wailing like no one else.
You described it as unmistakably Tom Morello. What was it that was unmistakably Tom Morello?
Well, it's just Tom Morello has Tom has such a unique...
It's a voice.
With the words out of my mouth. He has such a unique sound with guitar that is, and that's what I love about, all musicians, but specifically guitar players that I look up to and love. They sound like they're singing, like they're not just playing scales. It's not like you're not just hearing they practiced a lot or whatever. They're really emoting something and saying something with their instrument. And that's what I love. And Tom is certainly one of those players. And so is Kim. So is Kim Thale. And so that, there's a nice segue there. So
thank you.
So that leads me into, the song Only Love Can Save Me Now, which, is one of my favorite songs on the record. It was one of the first songs I wrote for the album. And I really loved it, but it actually became one of the last songs we recorded, just due to a whole bunch of reasons. But one of them being that I really thought that Matt and Kim would contribute something to that, like their weight and their power and their, just the command they have over their instruments is unparalleled to anyone I've ever met or heard. And they're very dear friends of mine, and I love them. And so I kind of a similar situation, but a little different. I sent them, I called Matt, I sent him a very rough sketch of the song and went, "Would you guys want to do this? Like, I think we could really make something special together here." And they said, yeah. And so we flew to Seattle, which is why it was one of the last songs recorded. And we actually did it at London Bridge Studios, which is where, Soundgarden made Louder Than Love and Pearl Jam made 10 and
stop it.
Iconic. Iconic studio. And so to be there and, not only be there, but to be there with Matt and Kim creating something new together after everything we'd all been through together and separately and, whatever, was this very kind of beautiful full circle moment, at least for me. Like, I don't want to speak for them, but it was just incredible. And to hear the song come to life for the first time was just mind blowing. Like the first time Matt hits his snare and the first note that Kim plays on the guitar, the speakers just like, we're going to explode. I thought they were going to fall off. I thought they were going to fall off the console. Like, it's just awesome. And it was like, wow, okay, well, this works. This is cool. And so that song is certainly very near and dear to my heart, and it would not be the song that it is without them. So
for context, for some of our listeners that may not be aware, we won't go into the details of it because it's probably not the easiest thing to talk about, but you were touring with Soundgarden when Chris passed. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you for giving us a taste of this new album so long before it came out. The title track, despite the name of it and the imagery in the song, for me, it's a song about living. Death by Rock and Roll, for me, it's a song more about how to live, not necessarily how to die, despite the hook. Is there any other subtle or obvious themes in this album that we should know about?
Well, first of all, you nailed it on the head. You're the first person I've talked to who actually understood that without having had me explain that. Because yeah, Death by Rock and Roll to me it's a battle cry for life. It's going, I'm going to live life my own way. I'm going to go out my own way. I'm not going to let anyone tell me differently, like rock and roll till I die.
It's not to be misinterpreted with suicide. I think that's the very easy choice to make, which it's not.
Not at all. No. Just because the whole, the song itself and the whole album delves into a lot of kind of dark territory lyrically and stuff, but that's just simply because it was, that was where I was at when I was writing it. I was not in the best of headspaces. We went through a lot of loss and a lot of trauma, and I sunk very, very low there into a very kind of dark hole of depression and substance abuse and everything that comes along with grief and sadness and and all that shit. And this record was very much born out of all of that. It was my way of healing and working through it and getting to the other side. So to me, Death by Rock and Roll, like you said, even though it might sound morbid to some people, and it does kind of start off very heavy, if you listen to it in order, if you actually pay attention to the track listing, it starts off very heavy and dark and bleak, and about halfway through there's this kind of musical shift where it starts to take a turn, and it starts to say that there is light at the end of the tunnel and there is hope if you want to see it. So I think that at its core, it's actually a very hopeful record. Yep. And I think that is something that we all could use a little bit more of right now, especially in these ridiculously insane times. So I hope that it provides some solace for people who might need it right now. And the same way records I have provided that for me, a little more hope and a little more rock and roll. Yeah, we always need that.
One last question. Is there anything else that you can tell us about Pretty Reckless's plans for 2021? I understand everything is kind of TBC, but some positive news on top of the release of the album would just be beautiful.
Well, plans. What are those things?
Yeah,
plans? Do you have plans anymore? Like it's no exact plans, but we are hopeful that touring will come back sooner than later. Obviously we're all missing that very much. Dying to play live again. We miss all the fans and plugging in and the whole thing. I don't need to get into details there, but I think we all miss it.
Yeah.
But on the bright side of things, we do have a few, we've been working on kind of visuals for this record, in lieu of touring. I think that it's kind of important to contribute kind of a visual aspect to everything. So stay tuned for more music videos and more singles and that kind of thing. And then we have a couple things that we're working on, like up our sleeve, that we're still trying to figure out, that I don't want to quite announce yet, but just stay tuned. And as fans make fun of me for my catchphrase, you'll know more soon. Like stay. I'll keep you informed. You'll know when I know.
Been speaking to Taylor Momsen from The Pretty Reckless. The Pretty Reckless have released their album, Death by Rock and Roll. Go get it. Taylor, thank you for speaking to The Faction today.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to talk to you, man.